For 3 hours, Scooter had dug. Every muscle in his body ached. Every pore of his skin saturated with sweat. He used his forearm to wipe salty perspiration from his forehead. Scooter frowned at the shallow hole he dug above the coffin. On his hands and knees, he brushed away the clumps of wet and sticky soil that still clung to the casket's lid. It did not have the same qualities of any modern-day coffin he'd seen in funeral homes. Not that he'd been to many funerals. No. This coffin looked like something you'd see in an old Western movie, starring one of those Wild West cowboy heroes. They'd have a preacher in a black suit and a hat at a gravesite. And the coffin they'd have would be basic, and nothing fancy and ritzy like those $100,000 ones they have now. He'd heard his biology teacher, Mr. Stewart, once refer to the casket they'd put his grandmother in as a Mercedes-Benz box. Tired, dirty hands grabbed the dagger from the nearby grave hole. A couple years ago, he'd gone to Six Flags in Dallas with the engineering club. And out of all 10 of them, only Ricky Garton paid the extra to be strapped into a harness and swung freestyle over half the park, as if he was Superman. When the other club members had asked him how he had the balls to do that, he'd said, simple enough, "I just didn't think about it, because I knew if I did, I'd probably have chickened out." And so, Scooter didn't think about it. Probably just bones. Old, dirty bones.
There's nowhere to go where they won't look for us. We can't even go to my family. The police are probably already there. My parents must be worried to death. Shit.
There is one place we can go that I doubt anyone will follow. With his sword, Atticus sliced at the thick brush.
I am not going to Mexico. Forget it. The drug cartels down there would run trains on both our asses.
I was not talking about Mexico.
If not Mexico, then where?
A house not far from here.
Holy shit. You mean the Rollins house? Okay, I changed my mind. Mexico sounds sweet. Let's buy 2 sombreros and book a Greyhound.
Atticus didn't respond, just kept trekking through the woods. Reluctantly, she followed, lagging some feet behind.
Do you even know what kind of stuff happens there?
Yes, I do.
I don't know if breaking you out of jail was a bright idea.
Never question the morality of that deed. Now that I'm free of that dungeon, I can continue my pursuit of the Geminus Beast.
Yeah, the Geminus Beast, right. So how exactly are you going to find him? And for God's sake, can you keep him away from Amy?
Your friend is in grave danger, I'm afraid, but I will do all in my power to help her.
Why does he want Amy's soul?
I believe the stone that the stag embedded into Amy's chest is a type of vessel, harboring the soul of the female Geminus. By placing it onto Amy, the stag is attempting to merge the female soul into Amy's physical body.
Is that even possible?
My brother in arms, Rorn, who sacrificed his physical life when he leaped off a 20-story tower, came to me in spirit form while I was trapped in a time warp. So I know that spirits are quite capable of such feats. The hot, wet feel of the night air licked at Carmen's skin, prompting goosebumps on her arms and neck. A damp sweat blanketed her exposed skin. There stood the Rollins house, an old-fashioned breezeway house with 2 desolate, gawking cabins conjoined by roof and porch. Twin craggy stonework chimneys sprouted from the gables of each cabin. A wide 4-step staircase led up to the porch.
I haven't been out here since Shane and me were teenagers. That asshole said I was too chicken shit, but after I threw back a few, I showed him.
Atticus kept walking, never slowing. He was several yards ahead.
But even buzzed, I never got this close to the house.
Bats flopped about in the shadows of the gables and chimney stones.
And I ain't ever come back here since that night.
Atticus walked up the steps and headed for the left cabin. When the first wooden step groaned beneath her foot, she began to tremble. Inside, Atticus stood, motionless, studying something etched into the wall. Warm breath billowed from her mouth, a cloud of steam. Carmen hugged herself, shivering. It was freezing. And this was Texas. I've seen this before. A depiction of an enormous scorpion was burned into the logs of the cabin wall, and the rivets between the logs perfectly simulated the segmented parts of an arachnid creature.
In a book?
In a time warp, this creature came out of this house. Whatever it is, wherever it's from, I think it doesn't want me to succeed.
The first of many reasons we shouldn't sleep here. One giant scorpion on the wall that wants to kill you. And 2, it's fucking freezing in here. And 3, you know what? Fuck it, let's jet.
We cannot risk getting captured by the lawmen. And by your own reaction to this house, I know that others too will be leery to venture here.
Giant bug doesn't like you, wants you dead. Why are we still here? God damn it.
I don't think he's really here. He was only present in the time warp rendition of this locale.
There's only one Rollins house, and we're standing in it.
Not true. Atticus stepped toward a window looking out and over the wide oblong pond. There was another instance of this town inside the time warp. It was as though someone had taken black and white photos of this place. There were mechanical spiders that Roran called time reavers.
The thing that attacked the diner.
Yes, they spin between the seams of space and time, somehow riding the various through lines of reality. I know this because they showed me the fall of Sodom, and there I witnessed the abysmal debauchery that the Geminus can wreak.
It's been 2 years. No, wait. 2.5 years since I dropped acid. It's possible I'm experiencing some delayed side effects. Maybe you're not real, and this is all some fucked up figment of my imagination.
I am no figment of your imagination. No more than you are of mine.
You're talking crazy shit about time warps and time-traveling spider bots, and I totally believe you because I saw that thing in a diner. I saw it. Saw it take Charlie, and saw it stab Mike through the shoulder. And saw you destroy it. And at the police station where everybody was frozen in place, like some freaky demon voodoo dolls.
Yes. The spider must have somehow tracked me through the space and time continuum.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Makes perfect sense. Time warp jumping mecha spiders and scorpions that could eat a Clydesdale. Never be able to drink a Budweiser again without nightmares.
There's something etched in the wood here. A message. Carmen crouched, still hugging herself. She read the strange writing.
Lothanig ath Nirel, oid Kionia, ualathaus nid ignonid, fnurge.
It's gibberish. Except for that one word. That's familiar. I've heard that word before.
It's Joseph Rollins' cult, Ministries of Ignonid. For him to name his entire organization after him implies this Ignonid must be some higher being.
Cults do tend to worship higher beings, but they don't usually write in weird alien languages. Then again, I'm not hip on what's trending in today's cults.
There's a gateway beneath the pond. I think Joseph Rollins somehow had it opened, and I'd wager that he accomplished such a feat through the religious worship of Ignonid.
Third reason why we shouldn't stay here. It's a former cult leader's house who worshipped weird alien bugs.
She inhaled, looking up, readying for another harsh sneeze. They both stared up at the ceiling where another creature was etched into the wood. An amorphous, emblematic mass of Cretaceous segments and dozens of coiled tendrils with hook-shaped barbs and 3 rotary mouths brimming with elongated teeth. A cross between a starfish and a squid from a far-off acid trip. This is extraordinary. I believe this may be a depiction of a cosmic entity. Possibly something not even of this universe.
Jesus. Hopefully it's just someone's sick imagination.
I doubt that. This house was a place of worship. Dark worship, but worship all the same. The ministry must have believed with profound faith in the powers of these entities.
This is ridiculous. I say we head out of here and book a room at the Best Western.
The Geminus will return here. When he's ready to escape, he will need to use the gateway beneath the pond.
Fine. If we're going to crash here, I'm at least sleeping in the other cabin. You know, the one without all these weird creatures on the walls. I hope.
Pausing in the breezeway that separated the 2 cabins, Carmen reveled in the hot Texas air. The bone-chilling cold lifted only fractionally. Musk and a cloud of dust swirled up from the wood floor. Carmen hugged herself. The chill of this room no better than the last. Cold and dark as a pool of motor oil. It was nearly impossible to see her hands in front of her face, and what little moonlight oozed through the glassless window on the far side of the room barely scratched at the deep darkness billowing on her side of the cabin. Carmen curled up in the center of the room, closer to the illumination, but still leery of the walls, afraid more creatures, like the oversized scorpion, may be etched in the aged wood. This place was majorly creepy, but might as well look on the bright side. At least she wasn't in a prison cell yet. How sucky would it be if this was her last night of freedom and she was having a sleepover with Atticus in a cold-ass haunted cabin in the woods? If she'd had the strength left, she'd have kicked herself in the ass for watching The Evil Dead too many times. Anybody who thought cabin in the woods stories were cheesy and passé had never slept in one at night. Keeping her elbows close to her body, she shivered and covered her ears. Atticus stepped inside. Too overwhelmed and exhausted, Carmen not so much as lifted her head in acknowledgement. Atticus spooned behind her. He wrapped a strong arm over her midsection, tucking her close to his body. We must conserve heat.
Yes, please, let's.
Dirt was definitely in the coffin. Large, moldy clumps of it. What was more frightening than a buried casket with bones in it was a buried casket without bones in it. Not even a stitch of clothing or any signs of further accoutrement of burial attire. Except for one strange and pristine item. A tiny, thin cat collar with a little Christmas red-colored bell. His eyes strained in the dimness. He reached out, taking the collar in his hand. Oddly, it felt a lot heavier than it should have, as if the bell might be made of a very dense metal, perhaps osmium. But with further examination, he realized the tiny bell was thin and light, possibly aluminum or tin. Where was Amy's dad's corpse? Chills ran down his spine and he shivered. Freya leapt onto the soil piled inside the casket. She prowled closer and rubbed her head against his arm before sniffing at the collar. Scooter noted that Freya did not wear a collar. "I guess it's your lucky night, kitty." Scooter placed the collar around her neck. Scooter examined the beautiful blade one last time, turning it in his hands and flipping to its underside. The familiar inscription caught his eye. Tobias. Perhaps someday he will get to meet this stranger. Gently, he placed it in the filthy coffin before climbing out of the grave. Too tired to even lift the shovel, he sat on his ass and kicked at the dirt. The loose soil suddenly melted over the grave. Particles blending, oozing and shifting, until the grave appeared as he found it. Completely untouched. Even the upturned rooted grass appeared perfectly intact. If he hadn't been fucked by a demon this night, he would have probably been alarmed by the magical movement of the ground. Some saintly spirit was obviously aiding his efforts. A comforting thought, to be sure. As he turned to walk back toward the gate, Scooter noticed something he'd not seen upon first following Freya to the gravesite. An assortment of stone crosses bordering Peter Wintry's tombstone. Centered inside was a cherub statue. The grave was dead center, guarded by the throng of crosses and a single angelic figure. The dagger was safely hidden from anyone or anything that might do wrong with it. Like Zack. Zack, a demon. His best and only friend in this cruddy life turned out to be a demon. And if Scooter hadn't have seen Zack do what he did, he would never have believed it. The Bible and all other religious doctrines could be nothing more than allegories, fables, and creative fiction weaved and strung together by bored ancients who needed entertainment of meaningful importance. But his eyes couldn't deceive him. Zack was magical, and that magic could give him something. Someone he'd been wanting more than all the knowledge or money in the world. A nagging little whisper in the back of his conscience kept reminding him that he was closely encroaching a threshold of no return and possible damnation. Worship the devil. You're going to worship the devil. Sell your soul for an illusion of Amy. Shut up. Stop thinking about it. Just jump, or you'll lose your balls. Hopefully Freya made it home okay. How or why she'd helped him, he didn't know. But he had scarier problems in his mind's front. Pure adrenaline pole vaulted him over the iron fence. Muskegon University, home of the Shadow and Booth Library, all known literature of Joseph Rollins and his cult.